Never go to marriage therapy with an abuser or a narcissist. I'm going to tell you why in this episode. Stay tuned. You don't ever want to go to marriage therapy with an abuser or a narcissist, even if they are the ones bringing it up. I can't tell you how many women I have interviewed who were being physically abused. I mean, being choked by the guy and then getting angry after, of course, and then being told they had an anger problem and that they needed to go to marriage therapy for her anger problem. This is so common. It can be very confusing to a woman. Number one, just recognizing that you are in an abusive relationship is hard enough because we don't want to see ourselves as a victim, as someone who's being abusive, especially someone who supposedly loves us, and especially if it's your husband. So just recognizing, first step is recognizing that you're even in an abusive relationship, because a lot of times you won't know that. Then you go to therapy, a big clue that you are in a relationship that's abusive or with a narcissist is if you go to therapy with them and you feel worse after. And you're like, why do I feel worse after? And it's very confusing also, right? Because you're in the therapy session and you're trying to make sense of things, but then the therapist is the one saying, well, clearly he wants to change, or clearly he wants to save this marriage because it was his idea to go to therapy. So it can be very confusing. You can start really getting confused in your head. Maybe I'm not being abused. Maybe he's not a narcissist. Maybe I watched too many TikTok videos. Maybe I've watched, too many videos of Worthy Woman Healing, where Lisa talks about abuse. So you can be very confusing. So these are the reasons why, though, there's 3 reasons I'm going to talk about why you don't want to go to marriage therapy, even if you suspect that he's abusive or suspect he's a narcissist. You don't even have to label it. If you just know it's destructive, if you know it's unhealthy, it's toxic, like you don't feel right inside, you're not feeling the way God intends you to feel with your husband, that's a clue that you're probably in an abusive relationship or he's narcissistic. Again, don't get tripped up on the label, get tripped up on how you feel and what God is revealing to you about the health of this marriage. So the first reason you don't want to go to marriage therapy with somebody who is mistreating you or being destructive in your relationship is because abusers love to mutualize the problem. They love to say it's a we problem. I'm going to lean in for this one, and I want you to hear me and believe me. Abuse is never a we problem. You are not to blame for him abusing you. It is not your fault. It is not a we problem. It is a he problem. So that's the first thing you need to remember, that just stepping into that marriage therapist's office, he's already presenting this as we just fight. And deep in your soul, this is not normal. This is not a healthy kind of fight. Couples have conflicts all the time, but in your heart that whatever's happening, whether that be emotional, financial, physical, spiritual, you hear your friends talk about their arguments and disagreements and conflicts that they have with their husbands, and in your heart, this is not normal, this is not healthy. And he, right from the get-go, the fact that he's even there with you, he's trying to make it seem like it's healthy, it's normal. We just need to figure out our communication. We just have a communication problem. No, dude, you have an abuse problem. The second reason you don't want to go to marriage therapy with someone who is actively mistreating you in any way, again, destruction in the marriage, a narcissist, an abuser, fill in the blank, you just know it's not right, is because they will weaponize what they learn in therapy against you at home. You will share things, you will go there with the best of intentions. You will wanting to share your heart and finally breathing a sigh of relief. Okay, he's going to get it this time. He's really going to listen to me. He's going to understand that what he's doing and saying is causing me harm. It's causing me pain, like my heart hurts because you so desperately want him to understand that his behavior is harming you. So you're going to go in there and pour your heart out and be vulnerable and raw. And when you get home later, maybe not that day, right? I guarantee you, though, at some point, he is going to use your vulnerabilities against you. And that will only make you feel worse. You are only as sick as your secrets. It is time to stop suffering in silence and join other women who are also on a healing journey, who are being raw, real, vulnerable, and honest with what they are going through in their life, what they have been through in their life. And wherever two or more are gathered, we know God is with us. It says it right there in the Bible. So there is power to group healing. Miracles happen in there. You have one woman sharing, opening up her heart. Suddenly everyone else in the group is saying, yeah, I've experienced that. I'm not the only one. There's such power in knowing that you are not alone in your suffering. You are not alone in your healing. And we meet twice a month. And in between those times, a lot happens, right? And it's important that you have time in between the sessions to practice the healing technique that I teach you, so you can come back into the group and celebrate with the other women. Hey, I actually remembered to do the healing technique in that moment. That trigger didn't derail me anymore. But it's practice. I'm also a personal trainer, right? You don't just get a 6-pack abs by doing one sit-up. You have to keep doing it over and over again. You don't run a marathon. You don't go out and run 13.1 miles for a half marathon the first time, right? You practice running a little bit every day. And that is what we do in Worthy Woman Healing Group. Join today and tell yourself, I'm going to give this a 3-month commitment minimum because I know I need time to practice outside of these sessions, and come in and get guidance from the other women on how to actually heal all of these wounds, heal my mind, body, and soul one trigger at a time. You are worth it. The third reason you don't want to go to marriage therapy, again, I'm saying abuser, narcissist, fill in the blank. You just know your husband is not treating you right. You know your husband, it's not healthy. The marriage is not healthy. It's very destructive. The third reason why is because it has to go with the weaponizing also. He is going to use the therapy terms on you. He's going to like sort of therapize you, right? So he is going to make it seem like you are the problem. Your reaction to his abuse is the problem, not the abuse itself. So like that example I gave you of my client who was being severely physically abused by her husband, but he knew to do it in ways so you couldn't see scars or bruises and stuff. And then she would get angry, fight back. And he said she had an anger problem. Well, when they went to therapy, that's what he told the therapist. He said, she has a severe anger and rage problem. And that's why we're here today. And a well-trained therapist, which there's not a lot out there, there is not a lot out there who are well-trained, have a well-trained eye for narcissism, for abuse situations, because it's, again, the woman's not coming in, right? And so a well-trained therapist would say, well, tell me what precipitated the anger. And maybe she'll tell her, maybe she won't. A lot of times women won't just, especially if it's on the first visit, they're not just going to say, well, my husband was just trying to choke me, or my husband was trying to block me from getting in the car, or whatever it is. And so he will make it seem like you're in therapy because of your reaction to his abuse. And the reason they do this is because then it's about fixing you, right? You have this anger problem. Yes, it's true. We don't want to sin in our anger. That is true. That's something that God calls us, like, to have self-control, right? That is true. And he will use that against you, though. Like, you already know that because you're not like that with anyone else, right? You don't react like that to anyone else because no one else is abusing you. He's abusing you. And abusers love to do that because it takes the focus off of their abuse and puts it on your reaction to the abuse. And a very common thing you will hear abusers say, narcissists say, my wife is crazy. She needs help. She's mentally ill. There was a very famous case, Micah Miller, who was married to a pastor who was very abusive, and she ended up killing herself. We think, we don't really know what happened. However, the whole point with that was when she started speaking out about her abusive pastor husband, he started saying, oh, she's mentally ill, she's not well, to the point where he admitted her to mental institutions. And this is not new, by the way. I just read Elizabeth Packard's story on this. She was the pioneer of stopping it so that there's laws in place so husbands cannot just commit wives for being crazy. That was a big thing in the late 1800s, even early 1900s, until Elizabeth Packard came along and very bravely spoke up against her abusive pastor husband. Very similar to Micah Miller's case that just happened recently. So you are not crazy. It is not your fault. And go get your own help. Go work on you. Turn to God for help. Go to a counselor on your own and share what's happening. And that is the first starting point here. If you are actively being abused, mistreated, and in any way you just know in your body, this marriage is not healthy, it's not right, this is not normal. And remember, you are worth it.